What's up everybody, Typical Gamer here, and I'm going to be talking about some very interesting things about the comic that we put together through the rip pieces we found throughout the Mob of the Dead map. To start, I'm now 100% sure that this comic was drawn by none other than Weasel, whose real name is Albert Arlington. I've come to this conclusion after reading Al's journal, which I'm going to put up now. The specific line which gives it away and possibly some more insight into the comic is, "Speaking of Icarus, same old story. The editor defaced my art, scrawling nasty little comments on every page. When I get out, I'll show him how wrong he is." This tells us one of two things. One, that the comic seems to be titled Icarus, and that two, the red markings on the comic are written by the editor who is criticizing Weasel's work. Now, we must realize that one of the main reasons that the editor is so critical about Weasel's work, even stating there is no market for this type of work, is that superhero comics were not around in the early 1930s. Weasel's comic was far ahead of its time, with superhero comics only starting to become popular in the late 1930s with characters such as Superman. I mean, the editor even wrote such things as "Please do not send any more samples" and "A flying man, do you believe a man could fly?" All things sort of indicating that this sort of stuff was unrealistic. This sort of superhero genre didn't really boom yet. It wasn't really normal for people and, people who drew. So now this pretty much explains the comments in red, so let's now focus our attention on the actual comic. The comic is of a man flying above tall skyscrapers with a woman underneath his arm, and he seems to have saved her from a building as some sort of incident. Maybe she fell out, or maybe there was a fire or something, because it looks like on the left hand side in the bottom left corner that the one of the windows was broken on the building. So anyway, let's turn our attention to the details of the superhero. He sports a bright red outfit with a sun on his chest, bright golden hair, it might even be a helmet, I'm not sure, a mean jawline, gold wrist plates, and brown boots. This sort of outfit resembles a handful of different types of superheroes, but doesn't really fall in line with the image of Icarus, which the comic is named after. Now, Icarus is, in Greek mythology, the story of a man who tries to escape from Crete, a Greek island, by means of wings that his father constructed from feathers and wax. He ignored the instructions not to fly too close to the sun, and the melting wax caused him to fall into the sea where he drowned. As you heard, the image painted by the story of Icarus does not really match up with Weasel's drawing. On the other hand, let's take a look at two lesser-known superheroes by the name of Sunboy and Jacques Gibson. As you can see through the images, Sunboy has a strong resemblance to Weasel's drawing, the main character in Weasel's drawing, the superhero. He wears a bright red spandex, has a bright yellow sun on his chest, and even has blonde hair. The real difference here is that Sunboy is drawn with bright yellow sleeves and boots, and also really doesn't have a similar storyline to anything we have seen in relation to the Mob of the Dead or Weasel or zombies in general. Now let's go on to the most eerily similar superhero, Jacques Gibson. To start, Jacques Gibson sports a very similar outfit to that in Weasel's drawing, with a full red bodysuit, golden wrists, and even golden blonde hair. The only major difference in costumes are the sun symbol on the chest and the absence of the brown boots, all of which could have been edited in later if this was like an alpha design or a design before it got published, which it couldn't have been published by Weasel because he died, as you know, in Alcatraz. So the major similarity here is actually the parallels between the storyline of Jacques Gibson and the zombie storyline in Mob of the Dead. Let's delve a bit deeper into the Jacques Gibson story. Charles Gibson was a wealthy scientist testing if electricity could have a positive impact on people's bodies. When experimenting with electricity and chemicals, a lightning bolt struck his lab, causing it to explode, and Gibson came out unscathed and could actually conduct and generate electricity. He swore to use the power for good and changed his name to Jacques Gibson while fighting crime, the Human Dynamo. His powers gave him the ability to fire bolts of lightning from his hand and also fly. In Jacques Gibson Adventures, he fights a evil villain, I believe he's a scientist, an evil genius called Baron Van Kumpf, who's trying to take over the world with his inventions such as ray guns and large ray machines. He also commands an army of zombies, which you can see how this really does tie into the zombie storyline. One of the Mob of the Dead crew even says something along the lines of, "These hellhounds look like Weasel's drawing," and could it be related to these scenes with the three lions here that we see, which takes place in the Jacques Gibson comic? This seems awfully similar to the zombie storyline, and even Baron von Kampf has some strong resemblance to Richtofen, the evil scientist behind creating the zombies and the wonder weapons and stuff like that. This sort of ties into what is happening in the zombie storyline as well in Mob of the Dead, seems like Weasel has sort of conjured everything in his memory and is coming to life, like the lightning abilities and the zombies and possibly even the dogs. This could be why Weasel is always remarking things like he drew something, or the writing on the wall was something that he did before, or oh, he remembers but it's faint in his memory. And this sort of thing kind of alludes that Weasel is the big factor in everything, and that's sort of what ties in the achievement Pop Goes the Weasel as well, that if Weasel kills everyone, then he ends the cycle, because as we know, Weasel was killed on top of the roof by the 3 other inmates for the faulty plan, because the plan didn't actually go through, which kind of alludes to more details of the zombie storyline, which I will be creating probably a video trying to decipher that and give my opinion on what the storyline is, because I don't believe that we're in the same storyline as the other zombie maps. Alright guys, so if you liked the video, be sure to leave a like, and please leave a comment with who you think that the comic book character truly resembles. Is it Sunboy, Jacques Gibson, or someone that I don't know of? Also be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I would just like to thank everyone who helped me formulate this theory and all the sources that I used, and if you want to see any of the sources that I used or any of the things I was inspired by, please check the description. Thanks for watching everybody, and peace out.